Look, it's me again. I'm late. I know I'm late. I always seem to do this to myself, where I come in like several months later and decide I'm gonna make a video. Well, I'm back, and guess what? I decided I wanted to make a video. I'm gonna be talking about one of my most anticipated VR games of the year. Hopefully it comes out this year. There's no promise of that, of course, because right now it's currently in development in a 4-step release program. What's it called? Ilysia. What is Ilysia? Ilysia is going to be a VR MMO RPG. They recently had their Alpha 2, which I got incredibly lucky. Incredibly lucky. I managed to snag a key, and I got a little bit of exploration done into it, and I would love to tell you about my experiences in it. Not much has actually been known since Alpha 1 to Alpha 2. The studio has been very quiet about the whole situation of what they were doing. For a while there, I got kind of concerned that maybe the project was either canceled or things weren't going as well as we hoped they were in terms of development and how far along this project actually was. But, of course, VR MMOs are kind of hard to get right. Getting a community done right, having balancing done right. The idea of it is interesting, a classless system. You get to create whatever character you want, and I'm going to admit, the idea of creating a paladin or even a battle mage really got my interest. So, is it out yet? Sadly, no. What I just experienced was Alpha 2, a part of a 4-stage release plan that developers have that goes from Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Beta 1, Beta 2. We were here. Now, between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, there was a several long month gap of just pure radio silence, with the occasional radio static from time to time going,
"Hey, look at this amazing teaser. Okay, thanks, bye!"
Alpha 2 was here, and boy was I beyond excited. Originally, I didn't have a key, and the only way that I could have access to it, or anyone who didn't have a key would have access to it, is to stalk through their Discord and wait for when they would have a giveaway and be one of the rare lucky ones that would get it. Or, if you get extremely lucky and people are feeling generous, get a random key dump. However, I knew to pull back on my expectations. I had to consistently remind myself, this is not a full release. This is an alpha, and I knew to expect glitches. I knew to be prepared with some jank. All VR games have some form of jank, and of course, alphas mean I need to be prepared for jank squared. I'm sure you're asking, well, V, how jank is jank? Well, this happens to be my first 3 days of attempting to get in on the PC VR version.
Helicopter, helicopter!
Remember, jank squared is the math we're working with. It turns out Ilysia, or maybe its engine Unity, does not like it when you have a controller plugged in at the same time. Who'd have guessed? Editor's note. During the Alpha 2 testing, I did put in a bug report for this. It would appear this was taken as a very serious issue and was fixed in a subsequent patch and was later working in a later build. Great job, Team 21 Studio. Y'all did fantastic. Thanks for listening to my concerns. Well, unplugging it fixed the issue, and so I was actually able to get in. My first impressions? Holy crap, it is so cute. I had a hard whiplash of nostalgia. It's odd, getting nostalgia from an Alpha 2 version of a game that is pretty much brand spanking new. The environment reminded me violently of World of Warcraft meeting Oblivion. It had that nostalgic charm for me, being as someone who played way too many years of WoW in my life. So let's talk about the things I experienced so far and how I would like to see progress. So far, the area we were allowed to see was a very small portion of the map. This is incredibly exciting. You meet with a few basic enemies like the Talka, boars, turtles, spiders, many others as well. Combat as a whole was exactly as what was promoted, classless, giving you the options to play in many different ways. Magic in the Alpha 2 is restricted to 3 basic specializations: healing, fire, and ice. Spells are cast with basic gestures that do have cooldowns and have to be cast standing absolutely still. You cannot strafe. Bows have to be at full draw, but you can move with them, with a 50% damage debuff. If you are standing completely still, you will have the 100% damage. Melee combat is entirely dependent on your speed and timing, as it is velocity based. Enemies will block or have specific weak spots you need to time or find. However, in my experience, that while casting and shooting arrows seem to be perfectly fine as ranged combats so long as you have good aim, melee early on is it's a bit jank. Hitboxes feel almost like a Dark Souls 2 hitbox. It's incredibly sporadic. Either you have to be up close and personal, or you can be in the back free swing and hit to your heart's desire. All combat is also incredibly dependent on stamina, which, as I've noticed, misses or doesn't connect at all when you are low. I've also encountered this fun magical glitch as a melee character, magically teleporting into an enemy and either beating up on its back and taking no damage, or dying because I have taken all the damage. Swimming was incredibly awkward, and it was like going through molasses. The inability to use my arms to swim was more than just a little bit awkward, as you're using your controllers as well as your head movement to go up or down. Going through water, I was unsure if my textures broke or if they chose to have heavily occluded water as a design choice. Underwater is actually incredibly bland and pretty unexciting, as the only thing around you is just gray fog. There's no enemies, no real reason for you to be down here save for a quest. The area was a bit disappointing, as if you look down to your own legs and body, you could see yourself do an awkward wibble wobble of a run just to make any movement period. The inventory, while a very awesome cool concept, felt incredibly clunky in terms of picking up loot, swapping out weapons and equipment. Being able to do anything inside of your inventory felt incredibly clunky, and the accessibility didn't feel that great, as you're using this odd pointer mechanic that doesn't quite work or doesn't feel right. It's a little tedious and frustrating. Let's talk about the environments. The environment is amazing. However, although we have amazing environments that you can tell a lot of love and attention has been put into, we are quickly rushed from point A to B, and we rarely have time to explore or have a reason to. I want to have a reason to stay longer in an area, have quest chains and region-style quests to have a reason to explore. The environments and art style gave me a violent nostalgic whiplash for being back in WoW, almost like I was in Elwyn Forest all over again, or in the Red Ridge Mountains. However, while the buildings and environments were wonderful, the lack of NPCs made me feel incredibly uncomfortable, and the environments felt incredibly empty, without having much of a reason to explore or feel like you're necessarily in a town with a bustling environment. Especially as I seem to be playing mostly during the server population downtime, so in terms of where everyone and everything is, it's pretty sparse. Though I will say, every now and then with proximity chat, I might hear a person or two cross my path. Speaking of environments, we have to talk about navigation as well. So rather than giving you a mini-map on your wrist or in your heads-up display, you actually have to shield your eyes in order to get a small HUD that shows you a compass at the very top of your vision relative to your position, to your next quest, to your cardinal directions, to the next enemy you have to kill, zeppelins, etc. The island is pretty large, even though what we've been given is considered a small portion of the actual game when it will release. But while there is a lot of land to be around and be in, there's not much of a reason to look around or explore, outside of having the dedicated quests that ferry you from location to location in a hurry. The game also lacks having a main in-game map, only providing small fragments of the map outside of the taverns, letting you know where your location is with a dagger, which only kind of feels situationally useful. Beautiful game aside, one of the things I didn't really get to experience was, well, the MMO part of the MMORPG. Alphas in closed testing means that there are going to be far fewer people actually in-game, and those that are focused heavily on bug testing, finding glitches, and giving feedback on balancing. The developers were certainly super quick to respond to our feedback and questions live in the Discord, where they seem to be fairly open without giving away all of their secrets or hopes for what they were planning. While that is incredibly awesome, I regret not being able to really find people to play with, as it seems many have rushed to the current endgame accessible content or playing at a time that I'm not able to, and I'm still sitting here trying to figure out how to fish efficiently. On that note, while I wasn't able to play with many people, I have found my fair share of bugs, to say the very least. Now, this next part, as I'm going to be talking about one situation where I grouped up with another, I need to apologize. In my infinite wisdom, even though I had my recording software up, I forgot to hit record. So, I'm sorry, I'm still going to talk about it, but you will not be seeing video of it. I did experience some pretty weird glitches, one of them being not being able to be heard in-game, but being able to hear everyone else in proximity chat. This really was frustrating, especially as I was trying to group up with someone from the Discord. Big shout out to Agnes Brisbane, you're a real G for helping me out. Another example of an issue that I experienced was with the first group quest enemy and my attempt to solo him, and getting absolutely McWrecked. And when I ran back all the way, the smidge of health I managed to knock off his bar was still gone, meaning that his HP did not reset. Now, sadly, there's a lot of other glitches that I probably didn't experience because I could not get to endgame with Alpha 2, mostly due to work eating up my time. However, I do have some recommendations I would like to make, just based off of what I've experienced in the early game. 1. More quests per area, as well as more enemies to focus on early into the game to give players a reason to stick around a particular area and possibly help each other out. Building a community early on through shared experiences and shared questing. I find it is an absolute shame that such a beautiful environment has been created, and the lack of a reason to stay hurts the world building. 2. Skip text option. Honestly, I read faster than the text does, and this is more of a personal preference. Unless there is voice acting, having slow scrolling text is a bit brutal for me to be dealing with. But again, this is more for personal preference, hence why I'm recommending it more as an option rather than an immediate standard, as I know there are those who enjoy the slower scroll. 3. Maybe some NPCs in a town. Perhaps not a lot, but enough to make a town seem populated or lived in. On top of this, give NPC stories importance. I love good lore. I love it when side lore is just as good or as deep as main lore. It is my understanding that the developers want the community to populate areas to fill in roles like blacksmith, cook, leather worker, tailor, etc. While in theory, this sounds fantastic as it encourages roleplay and immersion for some, the fact of the matter is, most players are going to want to progress their characters to endgame or want to keep moving through zones. This is going to leave voids or locations without people and creating, in essence, a ghost town. Even if it is just nonsense NPCs that are just there. I think personally, I'd prefer to have things appear more lively, rather than having just one NPC that populates a town. 4. Quest variation outside of just delivering and killing things. I want to have a reason to care for the towns I come across and pick up quests in. Let us spend time in a town and have a reason to be there and be more attached to it and give us opportunities to get stronger through the stories we traverse through. Even if it is a chain of killing quest, what story are we progressing in that region? In that town? If the game is designed with the goal of being a VR, MMO, RPG, don't forget the RPG portion. Give us a reason to care about the world and its environment. Give us a reason to be part of this world. What is this lore? Why should I care for this world outside of it just being a VR MMO? One of the biggest benefits to VR is being able to have a better idea of creating immersion. Why should I be immersed in an area for any particular reason as a player character? What are you going to do to make us invested? While there's a whole bunch of answers for this, if the game expects us to be fully immersed in the game, and for some of us to go so far as to roleplay and embrace our game selves, there has to be a foundation for us to build off of. 5. This one is controversial. I'd like to have an option to have a map. Hold a map in hand. Something to help me navigate from place to place more so than just having our compass HUD. I have the GPS skills of a deaf, blind, dumb bat, and would likely find myself the exact opposite of where I need to go. Even having it so we'd have to stop physically in-game and pull it out of our menus to unroll and look would be a huge help just to figure out simply, hey, where in the world am I? Where am I going? Do I happen to be traveling to a place that I probably shouldn't be or am not even ready for yet? 6. Microphone control options. This is beyond a doubt incredibly important. I was personally having some pretty severe issues when I was trying to play with someone from the Ilysia Discord. My microphone could not work, and there are no in-game options for me to see if possibly there was something clashing with it. I was stuck making very obtuse gestures, trying to figure out a way to communicate before the both of us remembered that for PC VR, we had the use of Discord. Without the ability to control or have some form of semi-control or a microphone muting, usage, etc., it is way harder for players to try and troubleshoot issues. For an MMO to survive, it needs a community and a way to communicate. And not having active chat in a VR MMO is a rough one to start off on. This is made even more apparent without a dedicated group system that didn't have dedicated group chat, didn't do XP share, and didn't share quest progression. And thus ends my experience in the Alpha 2. Sadly, it's now over. It was only open for a short time. But the good news is that the developers said that the wait between Alpha 2 and Beta 1 are going to be a lot shorter. This means we will see more content about it. Maybe even from me, because I am terrible with my money and my personal decisions. I decided to buy in, which is the option that we had during this period of the Alpha 2. So yes, if you happen to enjoy this content, you should totally let me know. I really look forward to seeing where Ilysia goes from here. This is kind of niche. The VR MMO RPG genre doesn't have many that come to center stage and stay there. We have Zenith on one hand, and we have Orbis VR on the other. Where is Ilysia going to stand once it releases? I look forward to seeing how things change. If you happen to like this content, please feel free to drop a comment below. If you didn't like this comment, drop a comment below anyways, okay? If I don't normally do content like this, I'm really trying to figure out what I'm doing. If you want to see more first impressions, if you want to have more content about Ilysia, or if you just didn't, want to see some of my other stuff, which I'm gonna have floating out there somewhere, may not be here, maybe elsewhere, I don't know quite yet, about my streaming content, in which case please follow me on Twitch. Otherwise, feel free to drop a sub and a like, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!